The fall of the Roman Empire. Close your eyes and imagine a world where a single empire ruled nearly everything you knew. Its roads stretched for thousands of miles across continents. Its armies were feared from the deserts of Africa to the forests of northern Europe. Its cities were filled with magnificent temples, grand arenas, and towering monuments of stone. Merchants traveled safely under its protection, carrying goods from distant lands. For centuries, Rome stood as the center of civilization, wealth, and power. To the people living within its borders, the Roman Empire seemed eternal. Yet history tells a different story. The empire that once dominated the known world eventually collapsed, leaving behind ruins, legends, and one of the greatest mysteries in human history. How could such a powerful civilization fall? Was it destroyed by foreign invaders? Did corruption consume it from within? Or was its decline the result of countless problems slowly building over centuries? Tonight, we explore the rise, decline, and ultimate fall of the Roman Empire. At its height during the 2nd century AD, Rome controlled vast territories stretching from Britain in the northwest to Egypt in the south, and from Spain in the west to the Middle East in the east. Tens of millions of people lived under Roman rule. The Mediterranean Sea had effectively become a Roman lake, surrounded on all sides by imperial territory. Roman engineers built roads so durable that many survive to this day. Aqueducts carried fresh water into cities. Massive amphitheaters hosted spectacles attended by thousands. Trade flourished across the empire, bringing wealth and prosperity unlike anything the world had previously seen. The Roman army played a crucial role in this success. Highly disciplined legions protected the empire's borders and conquered new territories. Roman soldiers were renowned for their training, organization, and effectiveness in battle. Wherever they marched, Roman influence followed. For generations, Rome appeared unstoppable. But beneath the surface, problems were already beginning to emerge. One of Rome's greatest strengths eventually became one of its greatest weaknesses: its enormous size. Managing a small kingdom is difficult. Managing an empire spanning 3 continents is far more challenging. Communication was slow. Messages could take weeks or months to travel between distant provinces and the capital. Local governors often exercised considerable independence, making it difficult for central authorities to maintain control. As the empire expanded, administration became increasingly complicated. Decisions that affected millions of people had to be made across vast distances. The larger Rome grew, the harder it became to govern effectively. Political instability soon added to these difficulties. Unlike many modern nations, Rome lacked a consistent system for selecting new leaders. When an emperor died, succession often became uncertain. Ambitious generals, politicians, and military commanders competed for power. Civil wars erupted repeatedly as rival factions fought for control. During the 3rd century AD, the situation became particularly severe. This period, known as the crisis of the 3rd century, witnessed extraordinary instability. Emperors rose and fell with alarming frequency. Some ruled for only a few months before being overthrown or assassinated. Others died in battle. The empire seemed trapped in a cycle of political chaos. Constant power struggles weakened government institutions and diverted resources away from defending the empire. Instead of focusing on external threats, Roman leaders often found themselves fighting one another. Meanwhile, economic problems were steadily worsening. Running a vast empire required enormous amounts of money. Roads needed maintenance. Government officials demanded salaries. Public works projects required funding. Most importantly, the army had to be paid and supplied. To meet these expenses, emperors increased taxes. For ordinary citizens, life became increasingly difficult. Farmers faced heavy tax burdens. Small landowners struggled to survive. Many were forced to abandon their farms or sell their property to wealthy elites. Inflation created additional problems. Roman coins originally contained substantial amounts of precious metals such as silver. Over time, emperors reduced the silver content while continuing to produce large quantities of currency. Although this provided short-term financial relief, it gradually undermined confidence in the monetary system. Prices rose. Savings lost value. Trade became less efficient. Economic stability began to erode. At the same time, social inequality increased. Wealth became concentrated in the hands of a relatively small elite, while many ordinary citizens experienced declining living standards. The gap between rich and poor widened, creating resentment and weakening social unity. As internal problems multiplied, Rome's military also began to change. For centuries, Roman citizens proudly served in the legions. Military service was considered both a duty and an honor. However, economic hardship, population decline, and political instability made recruitment increasingly difficult. To compensate, Roman leaders increasingly relied on foreign soldiers and mercenaries. Many fought courageously and loyally, but their connection to Rome was often different from that of traditional Roman citizens. Loyalty sometimes shifted toward individual commanders rather than the empire itself. Military effectiveness gradually declined. At the same time, pressure along Rome's borders was growing. Beyond the empire lived numerous tribes and peoples who had long interacted with Rome through trade, diplomacy, and occasional conflict. During the 4th century, major population movements transformed Europe. Germanic tribes such as the Goths, Vandals, Franks, and others became increasingly important political and military forces. Then a new threat appeared. From the vast grasslands of Central Asia came the Huns. The Huns were highly skilled horsemen and fierce warriors whose sudden arrival sent shockwaves across Europe. As they advanced westward, many tribes fled before them. Seeking safety, thousands of refugees moved toward Roman territory. The Roman Empire suddenly faced a complex challenge. Large populations were gathering along its frontiers, seeking protection and settlement. Initially, Roman authorities allowed some groups to enter the empire under specific conditions. Unfortunately, corruption and mismanagement quickly created tensions. Local officials exploited refugees, demanded bribes, and failed to provide adequate support. Eventually, conflict became inevitable. In 378 AD, Roman forces confronted the Goths at the Battle of Adrianople. The battle ended in disaster. The Roman army suffered a devastating defeat, and Emperor Valens was killed. For centuries, Rome had cultivated a reputation for military superiority. Adrianople shattered that image. It demonstrated that Rome could be defeated by forces operating within its own borders. Many historians consider this battle one of the most significant turning points in Roman history. The empire survived, but its confidence was deeply shaken. Recognizing the growing difficulty of governing such a vast territory, Roman leaders divided the empire into two administrative regions. The Eastern Roman Empire was centered on Constantinople, while the Western Roman Empire remained focused on Rome and later Ravenna. The eastern half possessed several advantages. It controlled wealthier provinces, benefited from stronger trade networks, and enjoyed greater economic resources. The western half, by contrast, was generally poorer and more vulnerable to invasion. This division would have enormous consequences. While the Eastern Roman Empire would survive for nearly 1,000 additional years, the Western Roman Empire entered a period of accelerating decline. In 410 AD, the unthinkable happened. For centuries, Rome had been viewed as the heart of civilization. Although the city was no longer the primary political center of the empire, it remained a powerful symbol of Roman greatness. That year, a Gothic leader named Alaric marched his forces into Rome. The city was sacked. For 3 days, Gothic warriors looted wealth and treasures accumulated over centuries. Although the destruction was less severe than later legends suggested, the psychological impact was immense. The world was stunned. Rome had not been captured by a foreign enemy in nearly 800 years. News of the sack spread across the empire. Many people struggled to comprehend how the eternal city could fall. The event became a symbol of Rome's vulnerability and declining power. Yet even after this humiliation, the empire continued to exist. The final collapse was still decades away. During the following years, additional invasions further weakened the western provinces. Vandals, Suebi, Burgundians, and other groups established kingdoms within former Roman territory. Imperial authority continued to shrink. Meanwhile, another legendary figure emerged. His name was Attila. Known to history as Attila the Hun, he became one of the most feared leaders of the ancient world. Under his leadership, the Hunnic Empire expanded dramatically. Roman cities paid enormous sums to avoid attack. Entire regions lived in fear of his armies. Attila launched campaigns against both the Eastern and Western Roman empires. His reputation became so terrifying that later generations remembered him as a nearly unstoppable force of destruction. In 452 AD, Attila invaded Italy itself. Although various factors ultimately forced him to withdraw, the campaign highlighted the weakness of Roman defenses. The empire could no longer reliably protect its own territory. After Attila's death in 453 AD, the Hunnic Empire rapidly fragmented. Yet Rome gained little advantage from the disappearance of this threat. The Western Empire was already approaching collapse. Political instability remained constant. Emperors rose and fell rapidly. Military commanders increasingly controlled real power. Economic difficulties persisted. Provinces that had once supplied taxes and soldiers were lost. Then came another devastating blow. In 455 AD, the Vandals captured Rome. The city was again subjected to looting. Although the empire survived this second sack, its prestige suffered further damage. Confidence in imperial institutions continued to decline. By the second half of the 5th century, the Western Roman Empire existed largely in name. Its territory had shrunk dramatically. Real authority belonged increasingly to local rulers, military leaders, and emerging barbarian kingdoms. The government struggled to maintain control even within Italy itself. Finally, in 476 AD, the traditional date for the fall of the Western Roman Empire arrived. A Germanic military leader named Odoacer deposed the young Emperor Romulus Augustulus. The event itself was surprisingly anticlimactic. There was no great final battle, no dramatic last stand. No single moment when the empire suddenly vanished. Instead, Odoacer removed the emperor and declared himself ruler of Italy. The imperial insignia was sent to Constantinople. The office of Western Roman Emperor effectively ceased to exist. Historians often use this event to mark the end of the Western Roman Empire. Yet in many ways, Rome had been declining for generations. Its collapse was not caused by one battle, one invasion, or one leader. Rather, it resulted from the interaction of many different factors. Political instability weakened government institutions. Economic problems undermined prosperity. Military challenges strained defenses. Social divisions reduced unity. External invasions exploited existing weaknesses. No single cause explains Rome's fall. Instead, the empire experienced a long and complex process of decline stretching across centuries. And yet, despite its collapse, Rome never truly disappeared. Its influence survived in countless ways. Roman law shaped legal systems throughout Europe and beyond. Roman engineering techniques inspired future generations. Latin evolved into languages such as Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese, and Romanian. Roman architecture influenced buildings for centuries. Ideas developed within the empire helped shape modern governments, military organizations, and educational traditions. Even the Eastern Roman Empire, often called the Byzantine Empire, preserved Roman culture and institutions for nearly another 1,000 years after the fall of the West. Today, visitors can still walk among Roman ruins. They can stand beneath ancient arches, explore forgotten amphitheaters, and travel roads first built by Roman engineers. Across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East, traces of Rome remain visible. The empire may have fallen, but its legacy endured. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson of Rome's story. No civilization, no matter how powerful, is guaranteed to last forever. Wealth can disappear. Armies can weaken. Political systems can fail. Even the mightiest empires can decline when challenges accumulate faster than solutions. Yet ideas, culture, and achievements often survive long after political power has vanished. The Roman Empire ruled much of the known world for centuries. Its armies conquered vast territories. Its leaders commanded immense resources. Its cities dazzled millions. But time eventually overcame even Rome. The empire that once seemed eternal became history. And in its rise and fall, humanity gained one of the most fascinating stories ever told.